Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Immigrant podcast. My name is Martin, your host, and today we have the pleasure and leisure to be hosting the very extraordinary immigrant Sayul. He is the Assistant Director of Leadership Development Initiative at Florida Gulf Coast University's Multicultural and Leadership Development Center, a role that allows him to live out his passion for fostering leadership, multiculturalism, and inclusion daily. With a deep commitment to the growth and development of student leaders at FGCU, Mr. Saul Laguerre is making profound impact on the next generation of change makers. So without further ado, let's give it a warm welcome to Saul Laguerre.
Hey, I love the introduction. I just wish I would have you walking around with me every time I got introduced myself. I love it.
You are welcome. You're an amazing gentleman. We're so glad to have you on our show today. If we can just go ahead and delve into the process and get to know a little bit about you. Tell us your immigration story. Where are you from? How you ended up in America, and what you're doing with your life today.
Absolutely. So, go off the dome as you mentioned. My name is Saul Laguerre. I am from the Caribbean island of Haiti, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, born and raised. So, going off the how I got here. So at about 12 years old, which is 2002, so I just told someone my age. So about 2002, my family and I would migrate to the United States. Very fortunate for us, my late grandfather, he was in the Haitian military, and being in the military, they had certain perks, certain resources. And one of them was the ability to come to the U.S., and he came in the early 90s. And then from there on in 2000, started bringing family over. He actually brought about, I want to say 13 people from Haiti to America. At that time, the financial part of it was big. So, but got here in 2002, and from there on, just been really big on my education. If you know anything about Caribbean parents, that's the one thing I'm gonna instill in you. They instill a lot of things, but education is definitely one of them. From there on, got my high school diploma, and had a hard time making a decision on whether I was gonna go to college or not. But just knowing that that's what my parents wanted me to achieve, I wanted to make sure I stay in that route. Not to say I did it only because of them, but they were a big major part of it. I ended up getting my associate degree at Edison State College, known as now Florida Southwestern College, I think it is. And I went on to Florida Atlantic University, where I got my bachelor's degree. And the reason why earlier I prefaced to I went on and got my college degree because of my mother, because that was something that she wanted to do. But following that, I wanted to pursue more education, and I went back and got my master's. And at that point, me getting my master's was for me. You know what I'm saying? So from there on, that was very big. So till now, I still work at the university, having a good time. I'm loving it, loving what I do. But outside of my education, I'm really big on my community. So I'm very involved in the community. That's how me and Philippe, we keep in touch with each other. We known each other since childhood, really, like grew up with each other. So it's a beautiful thing to see him doing things that he's doing, and vice versa, and him seeing me. So we've been out here doing a thing, man, and big on God's work. So all around. So I'm sure I'll get to talk about everything. So I don't want to give everything just yet. So
Mr. Sayol, we understand you. So tell me something. What was it like? If you're looking back and you're speaking to that new immigrant who's migrating to the U.S., they're here for the first trip, they're here for the first month, first year. What are some of the things you would say to encourage them so that they can believe in pursuing their goals?
Absolutely.
American dream.
Never forget where you came from. I was big on that myself, so I have a twin brother. So my journey was a bit easier because coming from another country and not speaking the native language, it was some challenges. I had to learn English. I was bullied at a very early stage, and because of that, I wanted to quit. I really did, but I started thinking about, like, if I quit, what does that do for me? You know, and my parents worked so hard to put me where I am today. What does that do for them and their goal and their journey for myself? So I would say the biggest thing is not forgetting where you come from. Number two, stay resilient. Be resilient. I tell kids that are from first generation or from the Caribbeans is the structure that we deal with as education wise in the Caribbean. My opinion, now this is not a factor. I want to make sure I'm referencing. My opinion, the structure in the Caribbean is a lot tougher than it is in the U.S. Simply because the way we had to study, the resource that we don't have, and having to make it happen, put us in a position where we have to maximize. But also too, in the Caribbeans or in other countries, I'm gonna say is, your parents have to pay for the education, so you can't afford to mess up. Whereas here, it's running off tax dollars, so therefore you can be a little lenient, you can be a little less. I don't want to be disrespectful, but you can be a little lazy, to be honest, and know that you may still get things your way. But I'll say one, resilient. Two, consistency. Never forget where you come from. Those things are important. But most importantly, just have a goal. Set your mind on a goal. Having a SMART goal is an acronym that's SMART. You choose a goal that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Having a goal, which I like to stay focused on. That would be my words of encouragement to anybody listening.
Talking about goals as an immigrant, in what ways do you think immigrants contribute to the fabric of their immediate society, to the places where they've migrated, and how do they align their personal goals with community goals?
I think one thing for sure is, as immigrant, you come from another country, and your work ethic, I think that's the biggest thing you have. You not allowing people to see you as just someone that's just here to take, but you're someone that give. How you give back to your community, you give back to your church, you give back to your school, you give back to community work that you, for example, like what you're doing right now, Mr. Martin. You know, people that's doing things that you know is a passion for you, you find ways to give back. And giving back to me is really just the source of helping the next generation, because someone had to pave the way for me to be here. You know, so it's like, even with this platform, you're taking the time to motivate, help, and sustain the next group of generation that's gonna come here and seeking opportunities. So our voice matter a lot more than we think, but we may not realize that. So giving back is understand that I have a voice. I may not have the platform, but I'm going to collaborate with those that have the platform to get the message out.
How has Mr. Sayul, how has your voice, your sense of identity evolved since moving to your new motherland, and what does that look like? And in today's society, how are you projecting that to help those who are looking up to you?
Oh man, most def. I think that's I could honestly start from when I first got here, literally. How has that changed? Is first I had to understand the power and the importance of education. Being honest with you, as a black man, being educated put me in a different bracket. Not to say that if you don't have an education, it changes things, but I know what I wanted to do, and I know the importance of education, that I had to obtain it right away, right? So I got my education. That was the first step. Second step is allowing young people, or allowing people that look like me, or that are from the Caribbean, or that are from other countries, to see themselves in me. Not to say I was walking around boasting myself, but it was more so, what did God design me with that he didn't give you, right? The only difference, I was determined to do what I'm doing now, right? So I make sure it's a point for young people, men or women, doesn't really matter, to understand that if I, Saul Laguerre, can obtain something, you also have it within you. That is literally a statement I like to tell my student. I work at a university, so you got to understand, I'm at a PWI, which is predominantly white institution. So therefore, it's not very often that you're going to walk around and see a black male. So therefore, when a young black person see me, I want to make sure they understand, I may not be in a classroom with you, but I'm on this campus with you. I'm standing with you. I'm helping, I'm supporting whatever I can do. It's not to say that I don't matter, I don't focus on other race. That's not my goal. But my goal is, I understand my model, my purpose, which is I am here in this institution, and I want to help young people that look like me, that don't like me, whether you're from the Latinx community, whether you're Hispanic, whether you are of African descent, whatever you're coming from, I want you to know that I came with nothing, and now I have something. You as well can do it. So I don't know if that articulated the question that you were referring to.
You're on point. Reflecting back, and we all have our own struggles. Sometimes people go through the deep and then they come out of the deep. But as a professional who's spending a lot of time contributing, developing the youth in the university setup, what are some of the tools that you're giving immigrants who are in your institutions so that they can be able to prepare for the psychological change that they go through when you come to a new country as an immigrant? How do they overcome the burden of loneliness? How do they overcome the burden of confusion and cultural shock?
My biggest advice to my students when it comes down to knowing who you are is knowing your roots. You know, it can be very easy for you to get to the state, to the US, and all of a sudden change because of the glamorous, the leisure, the freedom that you have. But it's also to remembering who you are. One of the things that my grandfather, my late grandfather, told me is, I'm here to take and not to give. And what does that mean? Is understanding that I came from a family where we didn't have much. Now I'm in a position that I can make something of myself. I have to maximize on that, right? So therefore, the first thing I did was I equipped myself. So therefore, when I equip myself, I'm able to allow others to pull on me. So whether it's resources, whether it's taking the time to just sit down and talk to a student, whether it's you're having a hard day, come by my office. I got Red Bulls on deck. Come grab a Red Bull. I have snake. And you gotta think about it.
Let's address that, because I think there's a nugget there that I don't want people to miss, right?
Yeah.
So when you say you've put yourself out there, and you want people to come and grow from you, what does that process really look like for you and for those around you?
For me personally, I take the time to talk to people and understand how I can support them, right? And supporting people sometimes is me giving myself to them, is taking the time to just have a conversation. You'll be surprised of how many immigrant students just want to have a conversation. You'd be surprised that how many students are dealing with mental health, or they have challenges that now they're in this space, they don't know how to handle it, and it's a hard task for them, right? So by me just allowing myself to be vulnerable, available to them, they see it differently. And when I say vulnerable, I would literally tell my students that I had a bad day today, because I'm human. So which give them the perspective of, well, if he always looks sharp and he having a bad day, I'm allowed to have a bad day. And I think sometimes people paint the picture that they got it all figured out, and people don't really understand that you having that image of I have it all figured out, someone else could have been healing from you. But because you look like you're so perfect, instead of that person drawing to you, now they draw away from you, because I don't want to go talk to you because you might judge me, or you might say something that doesn't align with what I want to hear. And to me, I don't want to tell people what you want to hear. I want to sit you down. We're going to have a conversation. But part of that conversation is going to be that coming to Jesus moment of, I'm here to support you, but how can we take one step forward in the right direction, right? How can we sit down, have a good conversation, and I provide a resource that I know you're going to be sustainable by yourself, right? How can I know the seed that I'm planting you now, you later someday will plant someone else? Because that's what happened to me. Someone was there for me. So I want to make sure they understand that it's not just about us. There's another generation. You have younger siblings. You have younger cousins that are going to be in your shoes. How can you take what I'm doing now for you and pass it on? So it's taking care of myself, making sure I'm equipped, knowledgeable, resourcefully, making myself vulnerable and available to those that I serve. And then from there on, allowing themselves to see themselves in my shoes and pursuing what we got going on.
Mr. CEO, let's delve into culture. You're coming from another country, and you're coming to, say, for example, the American society, or you've moved to Paris and you're exposed to the French culture, or you've moved to Italy and now you're exposed to the Italian culture. How do you immerse yourself in that culture and start discovering ways to become not just successful, but a substantial contributor in society?
The biggest part, as I think about the question, so I want to make sure I get it right, is how do I immerse into that culture but also contribute to that culture, right?
Yes.
Perfect. How I contribute to that culture is, first is I bring my culture with me. Wherever I go, I can't take away the fact that I'm Haitian. I cannot take away the fact that my English is gonna sound funnier than someone else's English, right? I can't take that away from me. So what does that mean is I come in as myself. When I come in as myself, I take the time to soak in my environment. I am very observant, right? I take time to look around. I'm not the person that's going to run into the next phase. I need to observe, how does this fit me, right? What can I make out of this? But most importantly, is this where God really want me, right? So I'm big on my faith myself. So therefore, I want to make sure I take the time to acknowledge that, is this really for me? Not every door that opens for you is really meant for you, right? So
that's right.
Acknowledge that. And from there on, once I found my place, my purpose, then I start giving back. And giving back can just mean that I make myself available to people and the resources that they have, right? Going back to the university. I came in, I wasn't familiar with the university system. I take the time to learn. Now, because of that, every student that come in contact with me, they know one thing for sure. If I don't know the answer, I'll know how to get you the answer. And because of that, not just the culture of the university, but culture of life. Right? I live in a country where the country is not mine. I'm a visitor here. I like to say it. Although I'm a citizen, I do acknowledge and realize that someday things may get out of hand and I'm going back to Haiti, right? But what I'm saying is, as I'm here, I am a Haitian American. I am living the life, but I'm also mindful of the fact that My culture comes from the food that I eat. My culture comes from the diaspora that my parents raised me. My culture comes from the morals, the value that I was raised with. So all those are things that I still imply in my everyday life while I am still respecting someone else's culture, right? Like you said earlier, just because you're not of Haiti doesn't mean we can sit down and have a conversation about culture, right? Just
Right.
it doesn't mean we can sit there and talk about religion, right? It doesn't really matter to me. It's more so, can we have a respectful conversation where I'm able to walk away getting something, walking away smarter than I came in, right? That's how I look at culture. When I dig into your culture, I want to be able to understand why is it that you do certain things? Why is it that you say certain things? Why is it that you eat dinner at certain hours, right? All those things matters. And some of those things are more so a way of life that our parents brought us with. But some of them are more so, this is the culture and what we do, and we're going to uphold those values and goals. So,
Excellent. Excellent. Mr. Sayul, I have a very interesting question for you. So, in the yesteryears, how did you define home? Today, how are you defining home? And tomorrow, what and how will you define your home?
referring to the US, right? I'm guessing?
With reference to being an immigrant.
Immigrant. Perfect. So, how do I define home? And this is going to sound ridiculous because, so let me use an analogy, right? It's almost as if you rent a house, right? You rent the house. You call the house your home, but really it's not really your home because there's a landlord that you have to pay every month, right? So
Yes.
even if you live in that house for X amount of years, eventually you will leave that home because it's not yours, right? As I relate back to the question is, I understand that I left my country, I come here. I am a tenant in the sense of, even though I am I get education, I get all those things for free, but I still understand that this is not my actual home. In essence, I come to this country with the mindset of, how can I make the best of this opportunity, and how can I take that I have and send it back home? Because if you ever talk to me or people that I'm around, I'm always gonna say Haiti's home, right? But I do acknowledge and respect that I am here in this land, so therefore I'm gonna respect this land as much as I can. So I think myself as an immigrant, yeah, I'll call this place home, I'll call it home, but it's only because I have a tenant that I'm paying that makes it my home. I don't know if that was too technical, if that answered the question a little bit.
You did not dance around it. You got the nail right where it needs to be. So, as an immigrant, I'm curious, how are you projecting your cultural values today, and how are they manifesting in a foreign land?
That's good. I don't think I ever thought about that. That's a good question. You got me paused for a second. That's good. That's good. How am I portraying my culture today? So if I had to say that, I would say the Haitian culture, there's different aspects to it. Based on where you're from, there's different region of how you were brought up by your parents. So for me, the way I was brought up was more so respect, right? Respect whoever it is, whether they're older than you, younger than you. Integrity, right? That's something that my parents were very big on, and honesty, right? Those are some of the things that my parents raised me with. So therefore, if I walk in any spaces, you are for sure gonna get those three. Not in no specific order, but you will get those three out of me. Respect, integrity, and respect, integrity, and honesty, right? So those three things are things that I'm very big on, and therefore I had to understand that no matter where I walk in, I'm gonna walk in as myself. So if I'm walking in as myself, what does that mean? I have to uphold these values, because if people were to quote unquote check me, what does that look like, right? Am I able to stand on something that is firm? So therefore, when I look at people around me, university, my community, wherever I'm at, I make sure that when you see me for me. In other words, I don't respect people because I want them to respect me. I'm going to show you, regardless of how you treat me, I am man enough to still uphold my own personal values. I don't allow you to break me just to meet your standard. Because you might think it's okay to be disrespectful to someone. For me, I don't think it's okay. So therefore, I'm not going to let you scoop me low just so I can meet you there. Nah, like, you petty, you childish, whatever you got going on, that's you. But that's how I manifest it. I don't let people change nothing about me. Now, I'm not going to say I'm a perfect person. Jesus himself was perfect. I wasn't, right? But one thing for sure is I snap myself back to reality. If I ever get out of character, I snap myself right back to reality. Like, hey, that's not you, bro. That's not something you was raised with. I like to tell
Mr.
myself,
If you're speaking to a new immigrant in America, this is where you live. If you're
yeah.
speaking to a new immigrant who just migrated to the US, how would you help them be able to envision what the future can look like?
Mm, what the future would look like, not to be typical, it's not because I work there. I would say education, man. Like, I think a lot of young people take education as in, oh, I could just make a quick thousand, I can make money right away, right? And I tell people that having your education put you in a bracket where if life doesn't work out, you always have something to fall back on, right? I'm big on entrepreneurs. I have business ideas myself. I have businesses that I do, me and my wife, right? We have those things, but at the same time, we still have a 9 to 5. Now, example is my friend Philippe here, right? Full-time entrepreneur. Life is working for him. That is him. That is his vision. That is his goal.
That's right.
Young immigrant person to sit down and write out your goals. What is that you want? Because when things on paper become more realistic, right? So again, me,
Yes.
I have my education. I still do business, whereas he do business full time, right? And we're both thriving in our field. We're both doing what we love to do. There's nothing that changed, right? So from my perspective, would say education because that's where my foundation is. Whereas Philippe might be like, no, let's go. Get yourself a suit. I'm gonna get you some business partners. We're gonna run the world real fast, right? I couldn't say that to a young immigrant because I don't have that recipe, but he does. So therefore, it'd be something very different. But I would definitely say education is a big thing, but also to writing down your goals. Like Bible says it, make your goals very plain, just write them down. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would do.
Looking back, is there anything you wish you had known before moving to the US?
Honestly, no. And because I left Haiti very young, I didn't know too much at the time. All I know is I was with my friend and my family behind. That's all I knew. And I didn't know much of the US, the country, the culture. Now, I would say someone that's in their 20s or someone that's more 15 and up with more common sense and knowledge is understanding that you matter. Like as a person, you matter. You matter to people. You matter to yourself. You matter to your future. Like your future is counting on you. You get what I'm saying? And we take things light sometimes and not think that far ahead. So when I think about my future matter, I think about I have a daughter now. So my daughter need me to be here and be mobile in about 15 years. So I take care of my health. It's the simple things that we sometimes miss. But if we realize that I could just take one step to put myself in the right direction, why don't I do it? But some people don't see it that way.
Yeah. In what ways do you think you've changed since migrating to America? And do you think that has caused internal and outside conflict? Let me explain it. Internal conflict where you're confused or you feel conflicted because of your values. External conflict, you had relationships with friends who do not have the same values that you now have, and does that cause some kind of friction?
So I don't think I've changed, and I say this in a respectful way, not in an arrogant ways, because my mother, she at one point was a single mother by herself for a good minute. Till my father came here, she was a single mother. So she was always very hard on me and my brother. Whether it was our education, going to church, whatever it was, my mother was very hard. So me slacking was never an option. Now, because I speak English more fluent than she did, I was able to get away with certain things. But one thing I'll tell you for sure is a praying mother's gonna know the truth, whether you want to tell her or not from yourself. So therefore, my mother knew things I wasn't telling her. She'd be like, God, can you show me? Like, man, you lying. No, really, she'd be having those dreams. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, did I change? No. But I was very fortunate that I found myself with a group of friends that were also immigrant. So we share each other's struggle. We share each other's morals and values. We share each other's pain. Because when I was feeling certain ways, they understood. So that opened that community for me to feel like I could talk more with people, right? I have someone that understands where I'm coming from. It's not just me being this weird person that's going through by myself. Like someone actually understood what I was dealing with. And besides being a twin, I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of amazing friends in this life that I grew up with from 2002 up until this day. And I think Philip mentioned it earlier, like his older brother is one of my good friends. Like we grew up with each other, hold each other accountable, still talk to each other to this day. We don't have to talk every day, but again, we make sure certain things happen. Now, did I grow? Yes. Maturity, I'm much better of a person, right? My beard came in, I look very nice now, so those little things. But yeah. Per se, no, I think I grew in the sense of more educated, maturity-wise. I'm a better man financially. I'm more respect. All those things grew, but did I change as a person? No.
How do you define success?
Ooh, that's good. Without being wordy, I would define success as backtrack. Success to me would be based on where I am at in life, right? But if I had to go with overall life success, success for me would be to be able to provide the life that my daughter wanted, that I wanted at her age. Meaning that every phases of life that she's in, I want to be able to provide that life for her. I don't want my daughter and my wife to lack for anything. Now, does it mean that I'm going to be a billionaire? I receive it, hallelujah, if I do become one. But what that means for me is I put myself in a position where I'm working hard. I do what I can to make sure I'm supporting those that I love, right? If I had to say success in education would be getting good grades, graduate with a 4.0 GPA, right? Success in my community is being so well respected, so well known that I go places and everybody know who I am, right? Success for me in ministry is when it's all said and done, I hear welcome and well done, my faithful servant. So success can mean different things. I think it's where you are. But if I had to say overall today myself, it would be to ensure that my wife and my daughter lack for nothing, and me providing that life that I wish I had to my daughter.
Here is a difficult question for me to ask. Have you experienced prejudices? Have you experienced hate? Have you experienced discrimination? And we know these things happen no matter what color anybody is. And just in your own personal experience, have you, and how did you handle those type of situations? And how are you equipping new immigrants to be able to overcome such temptations?
I think and I'll be honest with you, future reference, like don't feel like that's a hard conversation for me, because again, we're in my work of line, I deal with this on a daily basis. I work at a university, so therefore students themselves, they come to me. But personally, have I? Absolutely. I've dealt with it on numerous occasions. I've dealt with it in workspaces outside of the university. I've dealt with it on just walking in a store. I've dealt with it while traveling with friends. Because I was black, a cop pulled a gun on me saying, hey, did you steal something? Meanwhile, I was just minding my business, didn't steal anything. I've dealt with it on numerous occasions. But how do I deal with it when it comes? I remain calm. I'm never going to give you that satisfaction of you're just an angry black man. Never going to happen. I will never give the satisfaction of putting me in a handcuff. Not gonna happen. I will never give the satisfaction of saying he's less educated. Not because I'm better than you, but I know how to control myself. If I can control myself, I can control what's around me. I'm well spoken, I'm educated, so therefore I equip myself with knowledge and understanding that if I didn't give you a reason, you can't touch me. You can't look at me a certain way. And it's so amazing that I serve such a great God. I'm gonna plug God in here. The same people sometimes that are fighting against you, those are the same people that would need your signatures on their paper someday. You gotta keep in mind that no matter what life throw my way, stay humble and the truth will come out. But how do I equip young people, or I equip my immigrant students, is educating them. Like, ask hard questions like, what would you do? You know, it's late at night, cop pull you over, what do you do? A professor says something to you that was disrespectful, what do you do? We have those conversations. And I would coach them, not what to say, but thought process. Why is your mind going that direction, right? And it's easy to be the victim, but no, we're the victors. You got to keep in mind that I have something to give to this world, and someone that is not like the color of my skin, my hair, my appearance doesn't pay my bills. So therefore, I'm not going to have that person having any sort of satisfaction. So me taking the time to equip those young people is having this conversation, educating them, and I share personal stories with them too. Again, I never want people to see me as this perfect pillar person. Like, no, I have my flaws, I have my ups. I've been dealt certain hands, I've dealt certain bad cards, but I make the best of the situation. But staying calm, ooh, that pisses them off. I don't know if you ever dealt with it yourself, but you ever ask somebody to push your button, you stay calm, oh, they piss because you didn't give them the satisfaction. So that's how I would look at it.
Okay, very good. If you've talked a lot about education, and I'm beginning to understand that education is such a great value for you. If you are speaking to those who've fallen on the wayside of education, they're considering either they need to go back to school so that they can achieve part of their goals, or they're looking at education and they're thinking it's not possible. How do you challenge them so that they can see the opportunity that lies within the idea of educating yourself?
First thing I would ask is, what is your why? You know, like, why are you doing this? Is it you're doing it to get a check mark off your box? Is it for your job? Is it for yourself? Like, what is your why? Like, let's talk about your why. And from then we'll talk about your why. My goal is going to be to Now let's take your why, and how do we make that why turn into a positive, right? Like, this is the reason why you're doing it, but what's next, right? Because it's different thing where you own up to your own statement versus you own up to somebody's statement. Because if I give, let's say right now, right, Mr. Martin, let's say, you know what, Mr. Martin says, you know what, you look like a very good guy, you're a smart guy, you should go to law school, right? I'm gonna go to law school, and when it gets tough, I never want to do it anyway. I didn't want to do it. I'm done, right? But let's say the conversation, like, man, like, you're a very smart guy. Like, have you ever thought about like law school before? I'm like, yeah, like that's good. Like, I would like to go to law school, right? By me making this statement that I would like, it changes the perspective of the conversation, because that's something that I own up to. So my why would be that I know people saw something in me, so therefore I got to see it in myself too, right? So no matter what happened, it'd be, first, let's get that why out the way, and let's create a game plan. Are you a full-time? Are you a mother? Are you a father? Are you someone that is working full-time, part-time? What is your life like? Like, you know, what are your day-to-day activities? What do you have going on? Let's create a game plan. And also, too, after that game plan, let's also create a plan for just in case, right? If you're a parent, you may have certain nights where you can't do school every day, right? If you're somebody who's working full-time, you can't go to school or you can't go to school. If you're working full-time, you can't go to school full-time as well, right? So that game plan is so crucial, but the milestone that you create too is little bit. If I can get one class per semester, I'm done, right? Seeing the smaller picture, and that leads to the larger picture, changes the perspective. So I would say I would walk them through these steps, and also to help them understand, man, like, even if you start, you don't finish, at least you challenge yourself. And it's very understanding that education is not for everybody. Education is not something that is easy. Education is not easily attainable, and it's expensive. So if you were to start your education and say, like, you know what, this is not really for me, and I didn't get my why in place in the first place, then yeah, it's okay to walk away, right? But make sure you're living out your full self. It's nothing crazier than have people that are in certain fields that they hate, but they feel as if I have to stick through because I have a degree or piece of paper that says my name on it, and that I'm a quote unquote a bachelor, master's, a doctorate level recipient of it, versus someone that is doing something very general, but they get so much joy and satisfaction out of it. That, to me, you can't beat that. So yes, you'll be having that conversation of like, yeah, I want you to go back, but do you want to go back? You know, I think that's what it's like.
You're a new parent, Mr. Sayul. So I have an interesting question from your observation, from your experiences interacting with immigrant students in college. How are you helping immigrant parents be able to support their children with the right amount of pressure to be successful?
That's a good question. I feel like this is exactly what I do. I'm literally like telling you everything I do for work. What I honestly do is, I know so much resource at the university that the student comes to me and asks questions, I know where to guide them. Student having an issue with academics, I can help you. You having an issue with finance, I can help you. You also want to talk to, I can help you. But I also help students understand that your parents are doing the job that they're doing now to make sure that you don't do that job. How you repay your parent is up to you, right? So let's say you want to go to education. My goal would be to sit down. What are the needs that you have, right? Is it a need or is it a want? Like, let's talk about it. What are the needs that you have? We get those things situated. And if I can help personally, I'm going to do just that. But if I can't help, I know someone that can around the university, I'll do just that as well too. But one of the cool things for me too is sometimes I love meeting parents. I truly, truly love meeting parents. Like, I think sometimes meeting the parents, like them knowing there's someone on that campus fighting for that student, with that student, it changes the perspective. And not to be biased, but like, because I'm Haitian, sometimes that comfort, that open door comes a little bit easier. Now, I relate with any migrant parents because my mom is a migrant. My mom did finish her education as well, right? But at the same time, like, that love story of like, I got to meet one of your professors, one of your advisors. I got to meet somebody you work with. Now, that parents know for sure. Like, they may not be able to do it at home, but I'm going to do my part on the campus. You know, that separation, it goes a lot further than people really think.
Of course. Where would people find you on social media, Sayul?
Absolutely. So I have several platforms. So I have my ministry page, which is Minister Laguerre, which is on Instagram. I also have my own personal page as well too, which is Saul _Laguerre. I have that page as well too. And like I said earlier, I'm very involved in the community. So it is very rare that you probably would ask for the Haitian twins and for Myers and not know who I am or who I am. I'm very involved and honestly with church, anything that is church related, I'm very big in that as well. So I'm always traveling, doing God's work any way that I can. And I always tell people, and I'll close on this if that's what we're doing right now, is I'll say this. your biggest attribute will be how people see you before they even know you. In the sense of how I have a conversation with someone, you get to know who I am. But before we have a conversation, do you really know who I am, right? Based on my character, what people say about me, those things go a long way. So I'll say to every immigrant that's listening, I pray that you're successful. I pray that you're happy. But most importantly, know your why. Know your purpose, know your reason, and know that God created you with a vision of the goal. You serve this world bigger purpose by being here. So
you've given us a lot of nuggets. One more final question.
I got you.
What's the question you are hoping I would ask you that I have not asked?
That's good. That's. I'm like, I don't. That's. You didn't say everyone. I'm laughing a little too hard up there. I wouldn't say I had a question, but I would say not a question, more so. I was hoping to talk a little bit more about my faith, but I'm also big on respect and not being, talk about God every single day. That's how I prove myself being a Christian, right? So I was going to talk more about my faith, but I would say my faith is so important to me that wherever I go, outside of honesty, integrity, and respect that I walk with, I walk in being a man of God. I walk in being a man of God, and I walk out being a man of God. And I always ask God, what is my reason for being here today? Every single job that I have, I always ask God, what is my purpose in this place? I don't believe that I'm just here to get a paycheck or to help just students, right? What is my ultimate purpose? And how does that add value to your kingdom, right? Those are the things that I would say. So I didn't get to talk about too much about my faith. So maybe next time we could talk more about faith-based. But yes, I was happy to be here with y'all today, man.
We are so glad you decided to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, the most wonderful Saul. Thank you.
I'm telling you, Mr. Martin, we got to talk more because this introduction thing, you're doing it, all right? But again, I'm happy here. Thank you all for having me, man. It was a blessing.
Thank you. You be blessed now.
All right.